few of you who did the Excel training last week, and we started to look at the budget. So you should have a head start, but this is a repeat of some of the things we spoke about. The reason I said I'm going to rush a bit is because I'm putting the training on YouTube so you can listen to it again, and also for the advisor, so I don't have to do this over. And so I try to keep it within a certain time if it's on a video, although I know you can speed up video now. So, but if I'm going too fast, I need somebody to slow me down. I can't see all the participants on the screen at one time. So somebody would have to tell me if somebody else's hand is up, or they come in the chat to tell me if, and stop me if there's a question. Okay, don't feel that I'm rushing to finish on time. It's more important to get you understanding. So as I described before, you'll notice that your spreadsheet have some red numbers, and it has this number highlighted. What those are is that I call this my driver. So you go in a car with a group of people, and the driver determines where he's going, except for probably some vocal people in the car. The driver is driving in a particular direction. This is where you set your direction, and I'll explain that in a minute. If I was to change this 20, and in this scenario, in this spreadsheet, I'm using customers as my driver. So in this spreadsheet, I'm saying I want 20 customers in January. If I should change this to 100 customers, you notice my revenues increase. So your driver is the item you decide is going to dictate how your budget is going to pan out. If you notice at 20 people, 20 customers, I'm assuming my wage won't change because I noticed it hasn't changed, but it could. But I'm just using this as an example. So you'll notice that your food cost, which is down here, is going to change. So from $30,000, it's going to change to $150,000. So these are your direct costs, the things that relate to your revenues. So we went through what some people's drivers are last week in their business, and customers is one of them. I saw National put out a newspaper article to say they're spending $1.5 billion on a facility in Montego Bay. And I looked at their article. They use pounds of finished product. Honeybun also use pounds of finished product. So that's very common. The reason we don't use units of products is because a bread is a pound and a donut is 2 ounces. So it was not a wise choice. So you have to, as one of your most important things, to think about what is your driver, what is determining how other things pan out in your business. For Dylan, who is in farming, he may use, well, he has tours, so he may use tours, but the amount of tours he has significantly affects wages for him. It affects his tour bus cost, etc. So some things down here in the expenses can also be affected. So you need to think about what is your driver. That's the first important thing. And then the other thing is that your revenues per customer, the average cost or average sale we talked about was probably $3,000 worth of spend. So each customer sells an average. So don't tell me some spend 10 and some spend 2. You have to find the average. Your spreadsheet is a simplified version of what you do. So don't try to complicate it by doing this, that. Just divide your sales by how many customers you had in an hour. So why is this in red, Eileen?
I'm trying to figure out which device to answer you on.
Okay.
That's the, sorry, revenue. Why is it in red?
Right. Don't remember.
Sorry.
Okay. Let me move my screen to look at some other people. Vicky, do you remember why it's in red?
This is also sort of like a driver. This amount can change.
Right. So I'm not going to put it as a driver because we have one driver here, but the red figures are variables. So you can change it. So this is one company's revenue. Somebody else who is in food, for honey bun, the food price might be $60 because I'm selling a donut, so to speak. I wouldn't use customers, but this is a changeable figure. I discourage you from changing the figures in black because formulas are in there. If you look at the formula bar up here, you'll see it's a formula. If you change it, you may not know how to get back the original formula. So if you're not great at Excel and you don't want to have to deal with formulas, try and deal with the figures in red because they are, you will have to, different businesses will need different things. So for example, some people may use pounds of finished goods instead of customers. So you have to change that cell. So basically though, and we'll work with you with the templates. The other important thing to know is what is your cost of that sale. So I put in 50% here because Jamaicans, my husband told me, only know 2 times table. So if it costs them $10, they mark it up to $20. So I put 50% here because if it was 10%, then you will see that your food cost went down from 600 to 120. So you're gonna make more margins. So instead of you're now making a 10%, 1,020, and if you go to 50%, then you'll be making 540. So this is also very dependent on which company you're on. And as I said to someone last week, if I see you walking on the street, I'm not gonna say, hi, how are you? I'm gonna say, hi. What am I gonna say?
How are your margins?
That's right, Mark. And we thought you weren't there. We know
That
you
was
weren't there.
Spencer.
That was Spencer?
Yes.
Oh, man. Okay, I'm gonna say, hi, what are your margins like? Okay, so you must know your margins. Some people know and some people don't know, but you must know. It's not about how much money you make, it's how much your margins are. So there are different margins for different industries. And Honeybun, our margins, we try to keep our margins below 50%. And we look on the stock exchange and we look at competitors. So this is how competitors with different sales volumes can compare each other. If I am making 47% and my competitor is making 60% gross margins, or it's costing him less than me as a percentage, then I know that I'm out of the norm. There is a software that you can look up where you can find the margins and the income statements for different companies, so that you are able to compare how you are doing compared to other people in your industry. So this is one of the ways I decided I needed to be below 50%, okay? And you must know that too. So these are things that you must know to be able to put in your budget what it is. I also put packaging costs since our last training, because packaging is another direct sales that we used to use that as a significant item. Some of you have high packaging. I don't know, maybe Jan's is Jan here?
Jess.
No.
Jess is Gifts and Decor.
Jess?
Jess. Jess Gifts and Decor. That's Kitty's.
Maybe she means Janine from
Ragamuffin?
Or
Actually, no, I meant, I don't think they have a high packaging cost, but I just wondered if maybe Jan's accent, woman, whatever.
Jess Gifts and Decor.
Jess Gifts and Decor.
Gifts and Decor, yes.
Yes, I call Nashona my external memory. Nashona just completed a course in leadership, and strategic development, very expensive course. Nashona, sorry, but I have to say it. And
It was.
my coach told me when I just started with him 3 years ago, when you don't give people responsibility, you rob them. He used the word rob them of the opportunity to learn. So how many of you have people who are at a C score in something and you're not moving them to a B score? Give them things, they will do them badly, and you will fix what is causing them to do them badly. How many of you here have 2 people being trained? Why aren't you getting your people trained? Bring them with you. Just share the address. Train them with you. You will do less and you'll accomplish more. And they will be growing. You don't want staff who are not growing. That's called dead people. Please don't hire any dead people. Hire people who can grow. Okay? So, boy, I talk a lot. Anyway, I have so much to share with you. So these are the things in red. I put a couple other things in red, like I put my marketing cost in red, because for this company, I put 3 because 3 to 5 is about the average marketing cost, because some of you don't know how much to spend on marketing. Some of you are not spending anything. A new company can go up to as much as 15% cost in marketing. Did the figure change? Yes. Yes, it did. Q9. Okay. I'm going to change it again just to make sure I have the spreadsheet template correct. Yes. Okay. So marketing, you can use up to 10% if your company is not, your brand is not strong. And some people are just aggressive in marketing. In this one, motor gas, we said it was going to increase by 50% this year. You can decide it's not going to increase any at all. You can decide that you think it's going to increase by 25%, and the figures will change. You notice when you change the red, the numbers, the output changes. So these are the sort of things that Excel does for you. It allows you to only input and not having to change. I so often see people who in their formula sheet, they will have something and multiply it by $30,000. Why? If you change it $30,000, then you have to go and change all of them. So encouraging you to use, somebody said it's a driver. Yes, it's a driver, but when I talk about drivers, I'm talking about your company's main driver. Where are you going? In this particular one, I kept in incentives. Incentives can be 0 if you don't pay incentives, but I left it on because it's something that I very often encourage, especially as a small business, that you hire part-time people who are already working, who want a sales job outside of their current business, or you may want to pay yourself the incentive because you're not paying yourself well enough. So incentives can be based on sales. This particular one, can anybody tell what it is being paid on? Revenue. So you can also pay incentive on profit. Okay, so those are just what I'm calling some strategies. And people think budgets are different from strategies. It's not, because it's not a document that you shelf. You need to use your budget to keep you accountable to what you plan. Because if you plan to make $1 million this year, it has to show on paper first. I used to plan for my house how I want to lay out the room. I want the bed here, I want a chair here. So I can do it on a different software and put where everything goes, or I can move the furniture around 60 times and figure out where it looks best. You need to move your figures around a couple times till you're comfortable. And I encourage you to do it with your staff and your people so they understand why you are spending only $600 in marketing. That's not the case, but so do this with someone. Your strategic roadmap will also force some of these figures into your budget, because on your strategic roadmap, you would have set up that I'm going to do training for 200,000. So immediately you need to be able to include here And I'm going slow for those who are weaker with Excel. Right click, insert a row, add training. And mine, for example, is a brand new company. So I'm going to hire the people in January, and by March, I want them to be trained on customer service. I said 200,000. That is coming from your strategic roadmap, because you decided that you're going to deliver the best customer service of all your competitors. You said it. What you're gonna do? Just hope it happens? No, you're gonna have to do something. If you can't afford 200,000, then you do the training or find a friend to do the training. Those are strategies where your financials come into play, your profits come into play, and you see you're gonna lose more money this month because you did $200,000 worth of training. You're building your strategy when you're putting your budget together. So if you don't have a budget, then, oh, another thing I showed last week was that I have included a last year column. You can add any amount of columns you want without it getting crazy. So this is my prior year. So let me just use that consistently. Control copy or Control C, Control V for paste. So I just copied this name down to here. So look at this. If I said that last year, okay, so this is my budget for 72,000, which is not realistic. But if my profits last year, my sales last year was 100,000, then, and I'm going to add my commas by on the home tab, putting in comma here and reduce my decimals, because remember, we don't deal with cents. We leave that in the piggy bank. We're not in our business. So I put 100,000 here. Then immediately I know that to make 72,000 is less. So I like the comparison in a prior year column on your budget. Okay, so say likewise, let me just copy, Control C, paste, Control V. So I can see that last year I spent $7.9 million on wages, and here I am spending 2.4 million this year. What is the strategy to bring your wages down? See, so this is driving you to develop strategy. And then the other thing you do is you put in a description column to explain. These are what you'll find a lot of financial people call assumptions. So I use them alternatively. Description, assumptions. So I'm going to say, wow, last year was 2.4. This year 7.9. What could that assumption be, for example? Questions. Come up with a question, even if you don't have one, find one. Nam's iPhone, can you find a question for Mrs. Chung? Or you understand everything so well?
I'm following. Let's see. The last thing you said was the previous year wages was 2.4 and it increased, right? To 7.9?
In your budget, you are increasing it.
Oh, that means you're growing, you're doubling up staff. That's good.
But your sales are going down.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you need to increase the price of your items there.
Okay,
It's
so
at
now has a
$60.
strategy. He's gonna charge $5,000 per customer. Then let's see what happens. Wow, your sales, 39,000 is still, last year was 100,000. I'm now selling lobster. So now my sales have gone up to more than my 100,000. So you're playing with your spreadsheet to develop your strategy. Does that make sense, Andrew?
Yes, it does. It does. I noticed here that you are, this is a budget for the year. Okay. Could you use your previous year's data
You
to
could.
kind of
You could.
as a basis for your budget?
Very good. Because if your previous year, all right, so supposing you're sending this to get some financing, or you want your brother-in-law to lend you some money. Let's hope he's not going to lend you just because you look good. We want to hope that he's going to ask you, let me see your previous year's performance. So if you budget to spend $1 million to earn $1 million, and last year you're showing that you only made $100,000, then he'll say, what are you going to do? You only made 100,000 last year. How come you plan to make prior year 100,000? How come you plan to make 24 million? I'm changing up my menu. I'm having higher priced items. I'm going to increase my prices by 100%. What are you going to do that? That's not practical, okay? And I'm not expected to speak about practical things here. We can do that when you have your budget. I'm just showing you how the budget works. So you have a previous year column, so you can compare it, as you quite rightly said. Okay, and you can compare your expenses. So in fact, sometimes what we do is we look at our previous year's budget, and sometimes we even just say, okay, I'm gonna use my gas bill or my motor repair. Last year I spent, you're getting this from your auditor's financial report, your audited financial statement. Supposing you spent $120,000, and I can say, well, my motor repair industry under normal circumstances, normally, or yes, inflation is usually about 10-12%. You can say this year it's going to be skyrocket, so I'm going to put 15% or 20%. So I'm going to put 20% here to say that, and I'm going to make it in red, because when my partner looks at this, they may say, no, 20 is too low. They may say that, okay, I want to change it. So I can use a formula that says, I want monthly to be equal to last year, divided by 12 months, multiplied by 20%. I know this is going to be a hard. I could say multiplied by, let's change something in this. So if you're going to want it to be the same, it's going to have to be 10%. But I'm going to increase it, and this is an easier formula, I find. I don't know if people keep coming off and coming on. I'm going to say I want to increase it by 1.2, which is equal to 20%. So I can say I want it to be equal to the prior year divided by 12 multiplied by 1.2. Okay, I think this formula had a problem in it, this number. So equal to last year multiplied by 1.2 divided by 12. Let's hope that works now. So I can say that this year it's going to be 12,000, because I'm expecting inflation of 20%. Some persons might say, no, man, the motor vehicle repair just going to increase by 10%. So you saw the figure changed, okay? So just in effecting changes in your red numbers, it is taking it throughout the formula. Not so easy. Sometimes that increased, but this one didn't increase. You could do.
So Shanoy has her hand up.
Okay,
then
can you
Andrew.
read out? Okay, Shanoy, go ahead.
Okay, no, I had a question. So where we were seeing where the sales were going down, and the first thing we did was to increase the price point. I just wondered if we ever get to a point where it may be that wages may be what is feeding. And I was trying to figure out how you assess at that point, because sometimes it is that you may have too many people, or they're not delivering on, you're not getting the return.
They're unproductive.
Yeah, so they're not being efficient, etc. So I know the first step we did once we saw the revenues not going where we wanted it to go was to increase price point. I don't know if you touch on this a little bit later, but I would love if some explanation on how we measure that efficiency, so we know if it's really our staff or our wages that probably needs to be adjusted, because maybe we're paying 5 people to do a job that 3 people could have done.
Great question. And I see you're going to do very well with discussion of strategy. So I'm dying to see your budget spreadsheet because it means you would have taken all of these things into control. I'm going to answer you. If you look at Honeybun's budget, or you can maybe look at our annual report because we're on the stock exchange, and you're a similar business, you can find out what is my cost for wages in a percentage. Supposing you're a bakery and you want to know what wages cost me, and you go on there, the way to find out, and I'll use this as an example, the way to find out what wages cost as a percentage is to put the wage over the sales. And this company is spending twice as much on wages than it's spending. So how is it ever going to make money? You got me, Shanoy?
I'm seeing.
So if I want mine to be, I think wages can be like 12%, then I'm going to have to spend 71,000 about on wages. Of course, I've messed up my formulas because I've gone and jumped into the cell and changed it. So I can bring it back by copying wage. I've done something different here, which I will show later. So that's strategy. I want to bring my wages down to be more productive. So the way to measure it is to put the expense. So give me the formula for gas for this business. Shanoy, how would I find how much more? I don't like gas. You know why? Because how much gas I spend might not be directly related to my sales. Let's use marketing. What's the formula? Spencer, sorry, but when your picture is up, I call on you more because I see you. What's the formula for this,
problem.
Spencer?
The formula for marketing looks to be 10% of.
Oh, tell us the formula. Equal to what? Name the cell for me.
Equal to C32. I'm not seeing
no.
where the 10% of 2 million, but I don't see a 2 million anywhere on the screen. So that's what I'm trying to figure out. Where
Okay.
that 10%,
So
2 million is
this
coming from.
10% here was when I'm doing it backwards. I decided I want to spend 10% on marketing. So I just put in 10% and then I made everything else be equal to revenue multiplied by 10%.
Ah,
Okay?
got it.
Not sure what happened here.
I think we did the bank charge instead of the.
Oh, okay. So, we multiplied it by, you see how this is in red? And this D32 is in red? I multiplied it by the wrong cell. I should multiply it by this one.
Yep.
Okay? So, if I didn't put this 10% here, and I wanted to know what my marketing cost is, then to get the marketing cost as a percentage of your sales or your revenue, would it be easier to call this sales? I don't know. Then I'm going to have to put, let me do it here, equal to the cost divided by what, Nam?
We're trying to find a marketing budget.
Modified in how much is $5,000 as a percentage of your sales?
Oh, total sales.
So I gave you half. I said it's going to be equal to your marketing cost multiplied by the percentage of sales.
Yeah.
So putting that in as a percentage,
12.5.
it's 1.3%. Okay, what are marketing costs normally like? You can look at any company, see how much is spent on marketing, put it over the total sales, and you'll get it if you put it as a percentage. Okay, so now that I have 1,000 questions and 1,000 people confused. Who understands? Too confusing. Moving too fast.
I think I understand, and I'm going to say what I think. Mrs. Trauma is
Good.
correct.
Good for you, kiddish. Mhm.
Marketing, your marketing cost should be a percentage of your total revenue.
Good. That's it. That's the formula. Marketing
Okay.
cost divided by sales or revenue.
Okay. And then let's make it a percentage.
And you make it a percent, the number that you get be a percentage.
And
But
there
if
should
you
be a range. For example, between 1 to 10% is the most you should spend on marketing. Is there a secret formula or a secret guide?
Okay, so I did that homework for you. I went and looked at several companies, particularly my competitors. And I put, because it's not going to show you, boy, I'm going to put this training in 2 parts because I don't want to go too fast and lose you. So I'm going to go to